Probably should oblige them. We're almost at 1 million views. We're about, I want to say 60,000 off. So we just passed 3,600 subscribers, which is great. So I figured I'd at least oblige them by giving them some more of what they want. So, hey Colton, what's up? Welcome back. So we are going to make this a little more realistic in that I'm not going to bring everybody who's way OP, and I won't bring a bunch of way OP trinkets to kind of break it down. So I won't even unlock everything. I guess second slot's okay for her. It's definitely not ideal, but that's fine. So not an ideal party by any means, but one of the ones I would typically recommend when you're gathering sacks, well, or relics. So really don't need any of these, obviously. So the options are the Cove or Warren. So we're going to go to the Cove because more people tend to have a problem with the Cove. So actually, let me go back. I just pulled off everybody's trinkets. So we're going to keep this simple when it comes to trinkets and try and use some of the easier to acquire trinkets. So definitely Surgeon's Charm. She has Bandage, but we're going to focus instead on Crit. So I'll try and keep these to the common trinkets. So one of the good ones you can use for a Grave Robber is the book. Slippery Boots is a good one. Boots. And the Survival Guide's good. Let's see. Some of the other ones that are fairly common that are good. Those are already some that are pretty good. Bloodthirst rings are pretty good too, to reduce the amount of food you need to bring, but I guess that's a green, so that's fair. We'll use that. Won't use the solar bracers. For her, we'll drop what to use. None of those are really that solid. We got our Surgeon's Charm though. Probably the Prot Boots wouldn't be a bad move, so that she doesn't get screwed up. Alright, so Heavy Boots. For you, anything crit we can find. Let's see. She's not very fast anyway. And I'm trying to keep it to like green, guys, just FYI, if you wonder what the hell are you doing, Damp. Just so we can kind of go over the basics. Oh, that's a really good trinket. Actually, that's better than Slippery Boots. Slippery Boots isn't bad though, but that's way better. Do that to you too. Bloodthirst ring, sure. Okay. So I'm basically taking everything that I'm given, almost like starting really, I mean, we're using some stuff that's okay, but definitely not an overpowered trinket group or anything. So people tend to have the problem with the Cove, so we're going to go ahead and go in. So since we have a medium dungeon, 3 food, since we're going in the Cove, I tend to bring an extra shovel there. Let's see, so anti-venom, usually we bring 1, a couple bandages on, I'll bring 3. The only reason I say, actually 2, so you don't get the bleed from the lobsters on this level. Herbs, will just bring a couple, 1 key only for a secret room, because I don't need the heirlooms, 1 holy water, sure, and then we'll bring, I'm gonna bring 16 torches just to play it safe in case we get backtracked. Probably a little much, but that's okay. So we started about 932 just from a money standpoint. And I obviously won't be taking heirlooms, but you guys as you start would take heirlooms for sure. So I would not prioritize heirlooms over gold early on, unless they're deeds. Alright, so we know that's a quest location by highlighting on it. These are Curios, so we're going to just move over to the quest location. We're going to leave this go. We'll pick it up on the way back when the light's not as bright. And the whole reason you're bringing the grave robber is for what she just did, for the scouting. Alright, so obviously I like the art on that. It looks a little different. I don't know if they've updated that recently or not. It looks new. I guess it's been a while since I've done one of these, though. So technically, if you look, we let the light go down a little bit. If we would let it go down a little bit more, you'd see that we would get increased loot coming out of this. So for now, we'll probably just get a torch, and we do. But I've pulled very rares actually out of there. It's obviously very rare to have that happen, but you do want to try and keep it consistent and not let it run all the way down unless you're saving it for loot, because what happens is that you will take more stress the darker that it is. So, alright. So the basic mechanics of these fights is pretty straightforward and simple. Most of you guys know who've been here a while, but you typically want to focus on who's going to deal you a ton of stress. In this circumstances, these guys are DPS races. So we're just going to focus on them and trying to get them out of there. So I'm really looking for what's going to benefit me the most in the very near term, because we're only going to get a couple turns before they're going to blow themselves up. So I'm going to look for the highest crit. Exhibit A. So what that also does, obviously, when you hit with crit, you get the stress reduction that you saw there. So we get a bleed to our healer. She goes next, but she's not in any sort of a threatened position right now. So we're going to have her play aggressively because we know she's going to get a slight heal out of that. Alright, so from here, she doesn't have a great move, you can tell, from being able to do anything to the front row. So we're just going to have her deal the most DPS that she can. So we get a dodge there. That's okay. And then we're going to obviously finish him with a hack. So now she's at the point where she's taking a little additional damage. So every time that your character takes damage from a bleed, or they trigger a bleed rather, if they do it again, it stacks. So she's taking 4 damage per round. So that's typically something. She's going to take 12 damage or half her health. So normally, I'd say you let it go. Early on in the game, you probably would want to bandage that out. I didn't bring a lot of them knowing that, so I'm going to kind of let it go and use her heal when we get into combat. So I know I'm not going to backtrack here, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick up the torch. And again, you're going to get about 25 out of each torch, so it's better to keep it consistent. That one we got a little bit more.
We require only the strength to follow it.
But that's typically what you want to consider, that it's going to be right around 25, but I'll get you guys the exact number later. Alright, so she took her 12 health. That's over and done with, and we're moving on. So another thing you could do to her is, because we brought so much food, we could use the food like a small potion, but keep in mind that after you've used a few foods, that it'll come up as she's full. So we don't want to do that. Alright, so here comes a brigand fight. So one thing about the brigands is that these guys can do pretty good damage back here. These guys here tend to trigger bleeds with their shanks. So blanket fire from him is something we're going to try and get rid of. So again, she can still be aggressive and get a heal and possibly eliminate an enemy turn. So that's what we're going to continue to do with her. So in this situation, I would recommend AoEing. The reason why is, if you have an AoE that can finish somebody, usually that's the best opportunity to possibly use it. So if we look at your Hellion here, you could AoE and have the ability to still do 2 damage or 3 damage to some other people possibly, and then finish him off, as long as you hit on all of them. Keep in mind, you do get the debuff. So it's probably the best option out of not a lot of great options, even though she can finish. She can finish somebody off when she goes next. So those are your options there. In this case, what I'm going to do is risk that this speed, her speed is going to go before his next turn, which you know is a guarantee. Because he's already taken his turn, he can't hurt us any farther, and eliminating him is not going to do any better. However, by triggering possibly a crit on one of these two, we could kill him. So that's what we're going to do. So we missed it by 1. But she did get to go in front of him before he took his turn, obviously, and now he's dead. It's another huge advantage of bringing a Grave Robber is their ability to dodge. So there you go. You see now we got another bleed. We're going to go ahead and eliminate this turn. And then we're going to focus down him. Now really, we don't want to kill him. Ideally, you don't want to kill him before she takes her turn, because we want her to be able to heal. So what you do is you take a look at 3 speed, and then you look at her speed, which is 2. So odds are he's probably going to go before her, not worth the risk. So we're just going to finish him off. Don't need the crest, so I'm going to leave those here. But I'm going to move this.
As the light gains purchase, spirits are lifted.
Okay, so then we run into the tide pool. So if you're a new player and you're looking at this, the one thing I'd say is you want to look up your chart, which you can find all on the internet. You can just Google one. There's a lot of good ones, but you want to look up your chart to see what will give you either the best loot table roll or the best positive effect or buff. So for this one, what you look at is you would have stress heal, or heal like 5 HP and get a little bit of a cure. So if you don't cleanse, you have risks of just all negative impacts. So what we're going to do is use our anti-venom in here, being careful to click on the person who we want the effect for. So we're going to go ahead and give it to the Arbalest, knowing that the Vestal can judge and still heal herself. So she gets 5 HP, and she's still bleeding, but that's okay because we're not going to take much more damage. So moving on. Okay. Alright, next fight. So thankfully we got a surprise, which means basically all of our guys get to go first. So what you have here is a healer who can also cause stress, and you have these guys here, the groupers, who can tend to do high crit damage. So as always, I usually tend to favor eliminating the stress because that's going to cost you money long term. So that's what we're going to go after. We're going to go after the back row. We're going to start with... I was afraid he might dodge that. But we had 3 guys who could hit the back row, and we actually have the 4th one here, so she can Iron Swan through. Unfortunately, we should have killed him on like the first 2 turns. But that's the hand you're dealt with. Notice that each time the enemy crits, you have a higher chance to get negative stress in your party, just like when you crit, you get the stress heals. Okay, so that popped up a disease, which is negative 25% chance to get virtue, which as long as you leave your character in a pretty good stress range, you don't have to deal with that too much. Alright, so we're going to continue to throw dagger. Obviously, every time she increases accuracy, it is a slight offset to increase crit chance. And then we're just going to eliminate that because it's a turn of the enemy. So what I'm going to try to do from here is be able to heal up our healer for sure. We're not going to damage with her, we're just going to heal with it. So this would be a great time to probably stun this guy to give you an extra turn. Thankfully, we didn't have that benefit, but we had the crystals, so we're going to use her to heal herself. And then again, just finish it off.
Remind yourself
And take both of those, and then you have the fish idol. So again, you go to your table and you go, man, what do I do? So with the fish idol, you get combat buffs for dealing damage. So we want to leave it to somebody who is dealing usually a lot of damage. So we're going to give it to our Hellion, and we get it by dropping holy water in it. Alright. So at this point, we know that we still have to get quite a few relics, and we haven't gotten a scout chance. With these 2 being not the most healthy, we're probably going to use our Arbalist a little bit more to begin to heal. So we are going to move forward and knowing that we need to be selective with our heals. So again, torch up, try and keep it high, just to reduce the additional stress you're going to get for no good reason. We're going to go ahead and eat. And the hunger checks that come through are random. A lot of people assume that sometimes they're too punishing, but they are RNG. Alright, so we have 71 light there, and you can see it's causing us stress. So we're going to torch, and we get 25. 25 light. Alright, so in this fight, we have a little bit of prot that will happen, which will make this a little interesting. But again, same mechanics apply. We know this guy's going to cause us a ton of damage if we don't eliminate him quickly, so he's going to be our focus. So we were lucky to get a crit, and then he'll give us a little bit of stress heals also. And then moving forward, he'll be the second target. That is not who we wanted to get damaged. So we're going to prioritize getting that person off death's door, which is almost like an additional heal. And then beginning to bring them back from the dead. When we have since we have our Hellion who can only hit slot 2, it doesn't do us any good to hit the person that has prot. So we're going to prioritize second row. Now we've got to get to third row though. So he's guarded, meaning that no matter what we do here, it's going to only hit this person. And now he's buffed additionally, giving him more prot. So at this point is probably when you'd want to be selective in attacking here, and instead looking for things to buff your party or debuff them. So we really don't have that outside of just the adrenaline rush. But that's not going to do us a lot of good right now because she's already got a buff on her. So we're just going to try and hit and power through. That was a good dodge. That was clutch. And now, again, focusing on the back row isn't necessarily going to do us a lot of good because it's going to get him anyway. But she doesn't have a good buff, and that will actually buff her accuracy. So it's better than nothing. And then we're going to, again, focus on getting her health up. So we do get it up, which is great. And again, doesn't do us a ton of good to do that. So typically we could mark, but again, same thing, it's going to go there. So we're going to heal and play it conservatively. Get a crit heal, which gives us some stress reduction. And if anybody you want to get stressed out, it's usually the high crit party like her. Same thing, continue to hit to get the accuracy, power through on him. These are typically mobs you want to focus down with dots. It's usually a great thing to do for them. So after all that, we were still able to kill him all through his prot, which isn't great at this level, but the longer you go into the Cove, the deeper you go in the Cove, I should say, from a level perspective, the better he gets. So in this situation, I could attack corpses, or I could just heal myself, which I'm going to do. It's attacking a corpse, in my opinion, is a waste of turn with the party that we have. And then that ends the fight. Alright. We're going to take the money because we need it, and we'll take the bandages because we need it. The rest of that stuff we're going to leave. And keep in mind, guys, for those of you that see the collector a lot, one of the main reasons you see the collector is because your inventory is has 65% full or more. So that's another reason. Once you don't need the heirlooms, don't take them up unless you really want to fight the collector. If you do want to fight the collector, bring as much as you can. Alright, so in this circumstance, we're going to have her open it because she's full health, and she can heal herself when she attacks. So we're going to open this and see what we get. We'll actually get gold. Right, nope, we got an heirloom, which we don't want. So, moving on. We still haven't got the scout check that we wanted. Now, here's a treasure chest. You can open that with a shovel. I don't know that there's... shovel really is the only thing to get it. Otherwise, we could just kind of roll the dice and go after it. I guess there's really a 75% chance you're not going to do bad here because the only thing is going to be bleeding. So, since we got that extra shovel, we'll go ahead and use it. Alright. So we got some gold. We don't need that. Moving on. So she should have triggered that trap. It's unfortunate that she didn't because that always incurs additional stress that you don't need. In this case, we got a debuff too. So moving on. Torch. And hopefully we'll trigger a scout check because we definitely need one. There we go. Alright. So room battle with a Curio. Curio. Quest location. Curio. Alright. So we are going to go this direction knowing that we have to get the quest location here. And again, hope we get another scout check. Alright. Don't want the heirlooms. There's the trap. Disarm, which will give her a little bit better stress check. Alright, so now we're going to hope for another scout check. It's an empty room. We get one. Curio, quest location. Okay, so this will end the dungeon. One of the nice things about the search dungeons is that because you wait that long, I shouldn't say wait that long, but because you have the option to get them early on, you can actually wait longer and go through the entire dungeon without camping. You can wait longer to camp, which gives you a little bit of an advantage. So in this case, with the fish that we have here, the fish has, you can use the herbs on the fish, and then you get a loot roll to see what you're going to get. Wow, that was a really good one. So we got our herbs back, we got a shovel, we got a trinket, which we'll take that. We got gold. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we got here. So probably the best thing we can do is utilize our torches, torch up as much as possible, ditch one of those, take the emerald, obviously take the gold. We really don't need the shovel based off what else we have, so we're good. Then continue to move on, and then we'll get a fight here. Well, actually, we don't get a fight. We just get the quest reward. Okay, so we know it's here. We could come back here. Because we didn't get a scout check, we can continue to move on and try and get more loot. If you're early on, I would never recommend that you try and just keep going to get loot. If you were this efficient to get through with only this amount of stress, you could camp right here and pretty much be done. In our situation, let's see. Looking at supplies and stuff that we have, really we're doing pretty well. We'll go ahead and push on. Hopefully we can get a scout check, maybe get a critical scout check to get one of those rooms. That's really what I'm hoping for. Like in this situation, we can grab the shovel, since we haven't needed the shovels yet.
A handsome reward.
That'll at least pay for our shovel.
Performed.
Go ahead and eat. And I'm going to be cognizant of how much food is left, because I want to at least give it 8 food so that we can camp. So this may be the last fight we do just to play it safe.
The light. The
Go ahead and
promise
pop
of
our
safety.
torch. And we're going to go after the guy in the back like we talk about, because he debuffs globally. Probably the best move here is to utilize the AoE heal, but I typically play a little more aggressive, so even though this guy has high dodge, I'm going to go after him.
Impressive.
So that paid off, but typically the safe move there would be to AoE heal. Again, focus down on what we can buff, and since we don't have the option of hacking him to death and we can't AoE through that, I'll go ahead and hit the front mob, since she still has the buff until we camp. So she dodges. Thank you, Common Crystal. And he's definitely going to hit and probably proc a bleed, so he does. And some stress. Okay. She'll alleviate a little bit of that stress. And then we'll focus him down. Since this particular person I can't really damage in the front row, all I could really do is heal. That's what we're going to do. So she'll now get additional heals in case you need it. It's kind of crazy that we missed, but it's alright. With her buffs, she's hitting way harder. And the Hellion's really, really good at low levels is another one. Alright, so now we know who we have to work on stress healing when we get to camp, which will be her.
Prodigious size alone does not dissuade the
She's got 37, which is a little high. So we'll take the torch, take the shovel just to take it. Then again, we roll the dice a little bit here, not using the chest. Nothing great. Alright, now we gotta hope we get a scout check, which we do. We're looking for the secret room. No secret room. So we'll walk this way just to check the curio. It's only a torch, not worth even taking the steps for that. And we're going to go back to our quest location. We'll camp and pick up the trinket. And then we'll move on. Okay. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and camp. So at this point, we've already completed the dungeon. We know we're going to complete it as soon as we go here. What we're going to do is use our camp and focus only on stress removal. That's the only thing we want. That's all that matters, because we're going to get fully healed after this.
Huddled together.
So one of the advantages of bringing the Bloodthirst Ring is that we only use 6 food. As you can see, minus 100% food consumed. So because we only use that much food, it allows us to stay in dungeons longer and stave off hunger. So everybody actually is going to be pretty much fully healed. So we want to find what is going to give us stress relief. So Revel will give us stress reduction, and this may be enough. Even though we get debuffs, doesn't matter. They aren't going to be here anymore, and that cures basically all of our stress. So we're going to pop an Encourage. And then, knowing that we possibly could run into a fight, we're going to do Speed, so that at least we would go first. We don't really want that supply item. Somebody got a disease. She did, so I think she's the only one with a disease. But we'll get rid of that too while we're here. There we go. So that's cured. And there's really... I guess we could take a supply item just to do it, but we don't really need it. We'll take that, which will give us a little bit more money. And that's it. I'm going to rest and hope we don't get jumped. Okay, we did get jumped, so we aren't going to go out of here with perfect stress. But we should still be okay. Okay, so we got a surprise. One thing to remember, when you get surprised, it goes to blackest pitch. And if you notice, can't use torches during an ambush. So from here, we're going to have to do the best we can to eliminate things quickly, but still getting people moved around. So when it's blackest pitch, we take a lot more stress, but we also have the option to do a lot more crits. So we obviously were at 0 stress. Now we just went up to 20. We're going to move back because that's the only thing that would make sense for her. Still trying Iron Swan to get rid of the stress dealer. That's usually why he's second, because of the fact when he crits, he hits really hard, even at this level. Dodge? Nope, no dodge. Monster accuracy and damage increase, another offset of that. So, we're going to go ahead and eliminate the softest target. And go ahead and heal just because we're in slot 2, which is fine. Sniper shot, kill him. And then we'll go after the snail. Since the snail has prot, again, perfect target to use for your dots. So he'll go down next turn. Heal just to heal, doesn't do us any good, but unfortunately we took a lot more stress than we needed to, unfortunately. So at this point, if you know he's dead man walking, use your AoE heals, use heals, anything you can that's high crit to try and begin to bring some of that back. We do get some money out of this, which is good, but it's definitely not ideal after what, obviously, having to take the additional stress damage. It won't offset that cost. So, with that, we're going to take this, and then that pretty much ends the mission. So it's done, and we're going to go ahead and return. Okay, so we went into that fight, or into that dungeon about 9:32. We're gonna come out a little bit richer, but not much. And one of the things you can do to save some money is actually ignore sending people for heals and just parking them for a couple weeks. Early on, you don't really have that advantage, but later on, like this, you really do.
A rare and wonderful thing.
Supply run. Supply cost changed by negative 50%. Provision cost changed by negative 50%. I was hoping we'd get the wolf, but we didn't. So we went from 932 to 939. So that was really a slow increase of money, not a great one. So for these people who just took stress, you guys notice that if they have a little bit of stress, I don't send them to get healed. All I do is I will park them for a few weeks and then go back to them after their stress goes down a little bit. Nothing great there. I always check the stagecoach every week, looking for somebody that has really, really good quirks, because that's something you can't teach. Nothing good. But it's always good to bring more Vestals. So sometimes I'll replace somebody for Vestals. At this point, I'm probably in a good location, but if you're a newer player, you would definitely want to consider bringing more Vestals for sure. When they pop up, you kind of always want to make room for them. All right. So that was kind of the basic mechanics for a level 0 fight.